This is Glenn Healy.
Hi, this is Braden Holtby.
This is Daryl Sutter.
Hi, this is Brian Burke.
This is Jordan Tutu.
This is Keith Morrison.
This is Kelly Rudy.
Hi, this is Scott Hartnell.
Hey, everybody. My name is Theo Fleury.
This is Tim McAuliffe of Sportsnet, and you're listening to the Sean Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. I hope everybody's having a great week here. Wednesday, we got a little rain last night, and I don't know. I'm not a weatherman. We're supposed to be getting snow, so by the time I walk out the door, maybe it's snowing outside. I'm not exactly sure, so I hope that's not the case. But regardless, happy Hump Day, happy Wednesday. Man, we got one on tap for you today. Like, holy Dinah. Brady's got a story that is pretty much every parent's worst nightmare in, just where he goes with his life. And saying that, like, he's doing excellent things now, but his story to where he is now is hard to even try and put into words. So you'll just have to follow along, and I suggest strapping in because you're not going to want to turn off when he gets going. Now let's get to our podcast episode sponsors before we get there. Jim Spanrath and the team over at Three Trees Tap and Kitchen. I see you doing a little creeping on the social media there, and I see their patio. Jeez, I couldn't spit it out. The patio looks like it's open. And although we had a couple of nice days there, and hopefully the snow isn't flying, as soon as it's gone, there's nothing quite like sitting out having a meal or a beverage on the patio, and Three Trees got a great one. Also, if you follow them on social media, you can win gift cards every week. They announce a new winner. And as I keep telling everybody, they're busy, so make sure you call 780-874-7625 and make a reservation. Mac Construction, they've been doing business locally for 12 years with over 100 homes completed. They are a design, build, custom home building operation that has specialized in constructing custom homes, cottages, and RTMs throughout Lloydminster and the community since 2008. In addition to custom home building, Mac Construction does extensive renovations. Geez, the old mouth ain't working tonight, boys and girls. Mac Construction does extensive renovations to residences and light commercial work. If you're looking to build your dream house, head to macconstruction.ca and look no further. HSI Group, they are the local oil field burners and combustion experts that can help make sure you have a compliant system working for you. The team also offers security, surveillance, and automation products for residential, commercial, livestock, and agricultural applications. I always talk about the fob access to the studio door, and let me tell you, when it was absolutely pouring rain tonight, that thing came in extremely handy. I didn't have to fumble for a key, ran right from the truck, swipe the card, in you go. They use technology to give you peace of mind so you can focus on the things that truly matter. That's indoor, outdoor, and even doorbell video. See everything that matters. That's 3902 52nd Street, or give Brody or Kim a call at 306-825-6310. T-Bar One Transport for more than 19 years, since 2002. The team at T-Bar has offered excellent service, putting the community first. They are located in both Lloydminster and now Bonnyville. They offer anything to cover your heavy haul needs. In their fleet, they got tank movers, 45-ton pickers, 1-tons, flat decks, Texas beds, winch truck, and highway tractors. That's for every haul, or for all your heavy haul needs. Give the boys at T-Bar One a call, 780-205-1709. Finally, Jen Gilbert and team, for over 45 years, since 1976, the dedicated realtors of Coldwell Banker, Cityside Realty, have served Lloydminster and the surrounding area. I see on social media they're supporting Big Brothers Big Sisters. They got their 50 minutes for 50 years campaign, and so they were all out in front on the treadmill doing 50 minutes of exercise. Even Mr. Ricky Ticky, Rick Chesnick, was out doing a little exercise. He didn't look too happy. Good old Rick Chesnick. I hope you're listening, Rick, and I hope Wednesday's finding you great. Love that the realtors and Coldwell Banker are finding cool ways to be a part of everything going on here in Lloydminster and the surrounding area. Of course, they provide their clients with 7-day-a-week access. Service is a priority because they know, as we know, big life decisions are not made during the office hours. That's Coldwell Banker, Cityside Realty, for everything real estate, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Give the Big Rick a call today, 780-875-3343. I got to give a shout out to Read and Write and Mrs. Deanna Wanler for any outside signage. I highly suggest Read and Write. They have made me look, superb is the one word I would use. And if you're looking for some outdoor signage, give them a call, 306-825-5111. And Gartner Management, Lloydminster-based company specializing in all types of rental properties to help meet your needs. Whether you're looking for a small office or a 6,000 square foot commercial space, give Mr. Wade Gartner a call today, 780-808-5025. You head into any of these businesses, let them know you heard about them here. All right? Now, let's get on to that T-Bar 1 tale of the tape. Originally from Port Coquitlam, BC, he played in the WHL for the Swift Current Broncos and the Kelowna Rockets. In 2008, he signed with the Tampa Bay Lightning. After this is what he calls the 12 years into hell, where he got into cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl. Was homeless on Hastings Street, overdosed 10 plus times, rehab multiple times. By 2015, he was a wanted criminal, ended up spending 3 years in jail. Now, he's been sober for 15 months, hosts the Hockey to Hell and Back podcast, started a charity, Puck Support, and finally in 2022 will be rollerblading across Canada. I'm talking about Brady Leavold. So buckle up. Here we go.
This is Brady Leavold. Welcome to the Sean Newman podcast.
Welcome to the Sean Newman podcast. Today I'm joined by Brady Leavold. So first off, man, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. And I feel like it's been a little bit of a long time coming. Maybe not so much for you, but initially when I started my podcast, I would, just seeing what else is out there, and your name, your podcast continuously came up. So I'm really happy to be here, and love what you do, man.
Well, I appreciate that. And geez, I don't know. I look at some of the guests you've had yourself, Brady, now, and I go, we're just two guys, pulling in some hockey stories, pulling in some good stories and seeing where it goes. Now, you specifically, man, like I listened to your first one, and then I've had my father was my second guest. So I went right to 50. I cheated and I went right to 50, and I listened to you and your dad, both of them 50, 51. And I was like, I don't know, weirdly proud of you for going from episode 1 where you're unsure what the hell you're getting into, and then listening to you and your pops there for a couple. I was like, wow, this is something special. That's you talk about being unique or true to yourself. I think guests can feel that. And so just in listening to the few I have, like, hard not to listen to Dougie Gilmore come on, like that's pretty cool. And I mean, I'm sure there's other ones that stick out to you, but it's been cool to watch your ride from afar.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Again, you mentioned some of the names that have come on and actually came on fairly early. I mean, originally my podcast was called something else, and I've since changed the name of it. And Dougie is he's become a friend, like somebody that I text back and forth with. And maybe we'll get into my story a little bit, but coming from where I came from, and not that long ago, I would have never expected some of the relationships and friendships that I've made over this past year. And I think that just speaks volumes to just, how beautiful of a community hockey really has, and the people that are in it. There's no other sport like it. I don't think there's that same camaraderie and that family feeling, at least in my experience and from the conversations that I've had, because I think in a lot of senses, like, people could have just turned their back on me and been like, I have no time for you because of the things that I've done. And, for every day I wake up, Sean, I'm so grateful, just for each new day, but, just the relationships that I've made, whether it be a Hockey Hall of Famer or somebody that's just reached out to me that maybe never even played a high level junior hockey, just somebody that has heard something that either I've said or my guest has said and felt the courage or the need to kind of reach out. And I've developed a lot of friendships that way too. So, I mean, it's just been one big continuous gift that just keeps on giving. And I'm just really lucky, man. There's no two ways about it.
Well, let's talk about your story, because I feel like a lot of people are going, Brady, who? Like, you've come a long ways. You've had some big names on, but I feel like my nephew reminded me again that I should get you on, and we watched the video, and I'm like, Yeah, you're absolutely right. We need to get this guy on. So shout out to Nate for pushing me to reach back out to you, because we talked, like, I feel like me and you talked like probably a year ago. Like, I feel like that's how long ago it was. And then I don't know what happens in life, but time just seems to fly by. And all of a sudden I'm like,
Yeah.
geez, that was a long time ago. But let's just walk me through some of your story, and I'll sit here as a fly on the wall and see if I can't, ask a few questions. Because you got, man, I don't know. I suggest to the listeners to buckle up, because she's a ride.
Yeah. And thanks to Nate. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to share my story here on your platform, probably touch a whole different viewership than what I have. And so I love every opportunity to do it. And always my hope is that I can just touch, even if it's just one life. That was ultimately my goal when I started my podcast originally, was just to maybe I can help one person. I didn't really know what I was doing or which direction I was going, and I'll back it up a little bit. So, originally I'm from Port Coquitlam, hometown of Terry Fox, and just a small town outside of Vancouver. Had a fairly normal upbringing till the time I was about 5, and then my mom left. Shortly after that, I was sexually abused at a family reunion, and then again the following year, it was Thanksgiving time at another family reunion. And so, and I lived with my dad like 95% of the time. And it happened when I was with my mom's side of the family. It's not my mom's fault or anything. It was a distant relative. Just one of these situations that I'm still dealing with today, Sean, but I've come out the other side of it. But so what that did initially is, obviously at 5 and then 6 years old, it's very confusing, right? Like, it's here's an older guy that sexually abused me, and it's just one of these things that put me on this trajectory for mental illness and addiction. But also initially what it did is it pushed me into hockey. Like, hockey became my outlet. It was, whether it was on the ice or in my driveway in my rollerblades. Growing up there, we didn't have outdoor rinks and stuff, so it was a lot of street hockey. And so that was my paradise. That was my first drug. That's the only way I can really explain it, is like, it's the only place I felt safe, comfortable, kind of secure, in my driveway with my stick in my hand. So, I was able to get fairly good at hockey, but at the same time, I was very mentally damaged. And so I was always kind of like, I was never a bad kid, Sean, but I was always just like, and people thought that it was because my mom left, which maybe had something to do with it, right? Like, clearly, as a young boy, you want both your parents there. But it was the easy excuse to be like, oh, he's dealing with things with his mom. But right at that same time, I was sexually abused. And so I didn't tell anybody. And the reason why I didn't tell anybody, and I remember specifically, is because at that time, one, I didn't really know that it was wrong at first. I mean, I kind of think it's wrong, but back then, a lot of this stuff wasn't talked about to kids and stuff. But, slowly though, 7, 8 years old, you start to hear homophobic slurs in the schoolyard, in the dressing room. You start to see people get labeled. And I was like, wow, like, I can never tell anybody that this happened to me, because my life will be ruined. And so I made the decision to just bury it down. And,
Your
it was
parents,
obviously,
you sorry to hop in here for a sec, but I got a 5-year-old, and I
Yeah.
just assume that you'd be able to know. But I guess at the same time, how the fuck would you know? I don't know.
yeah.
Like, your
I
parents
don't
never knew?
remember. No, I mean, I think because of my, like I said, my mom leaving, like, I started to act out. I started to act differently. Like, I've asked my family, my neighbors, like, in and around that time, did you guys notice anything? They're like, yeah, well, obviously. But because literally it happened 2 months after my mom left, they just thought that I was acting out because I couldn't see my mom. And so, yeah, it was just a crazy time. And thankfully I had hockey. Otherwise, I think I would have went down the wrong path a lot sooner than I
Fuck.
did. But I was able to use hockey as an outlet, Sean, and played AAA growing up and all that, and eventually made it to the Western Hockey League with the Swift Current Broncos, and got Rookie of the Year with the Broncos. And during that year, though, I really started to become suicidal, really started to deal with mental illness, being away from home. And just I don't know what it was, but something being there. Nothing against the town of Swift Current, because I love Swift Current. I love my billets. I love everything about it. But just something when I was there, and could have been anywhere, but all I know is I was there, and that's what started to happen. I actually took what would now be recognized as a mental health leave of absence my rookie year, for 2 weeks and went home. And then, coming back to the team, I really started to get hazed and picked on and everything else. I still got rookie of the year. Yeah.
Because you left?
Yeah, they were calling me baby, they gave me the nickname baby,
Yeah.
go home again, baby, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so, I started to like hate going to the rink, hate hockey. And I went back the next year, had every opportunity to play on the first line power play, everything. And I ended up quitting like 7 games into the season. I was like, yeah, see you later. And packed up my truck and drove back to BC and ended up playing the BC Hockey League for a short time, playing on the line with Kyle Turris with the Express. But while I was there, the partying habits, the self-medicating, that's really kind of where it took off, is when I came back from Swift Current. I really started to get heavy into the cocaine and different things. And so shortly after that, I got kicked out of my house because I quit the Express and I quit hockey altogether. And sometime in July of that summer, as an 18-year-old, just before my 19th birthday, I called Dean Chanel, the assistant coach of the Carolina Hurricanes. Now he was the head coach of Swift Current, and said, hey, like, I made a mistake. Like, I need to come back. Like, I'm having a hard time. I want to play hockey. And I was actually traded to the Everett Silvertips and had my friend tell Kevin Constantine, who was the coach of the Silvertips at the time, pretending to be me, this is Brady Leavold, I'm not coming, see you later, and hung up on Kevin Constantine. So my rights got pushed back to Swift Current. So I went back there and ended up making the team, even though the coach told me I wasn't going to. And he made it very difficult, rightfully so. Again, nobody really knew why I was acting out and doing the things I was doing. They had tried to get me a sports psychologist my first year, but I just wasn't ready to share any of it. And so during my 19-year-old year, I played like third, fourth line for the first half of the season. It didn't matter what I did. Finished the year in the top 6 there, forwards and whatever, and lost out in the first round of playoffs, but found out that a girl there was pregnant right before I left and went home. And so I got a girl pregnant in Swift Current and went home. Like we were together and then we broke up and I went home. Then I got together with this other girl. She found out that girl got pregnant. Well, doesn't she get pregnant too? And so I had 2 girls pregnant at the same time when I'm 19 while I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. And I went back to Swift Current and as a 20-year-old, and it was just a mess. Like huge problems, small town. Everyone knows what's going on. The police had to get involved at one time. And they were like, yeah, like.
Why'd the police have to get involved?
Because I've never even told this story, but I'll tell you, like the girl's brother, was trying to be all tough and everything else. And me being a little bit of a lunatic at the time, I went, I totally challenged him and went there and he got scared and they called the cops and it wasn't a good scene. It was just me not in my best thinking, but I was just losing it, drinking a lot and just trying to make myself feel better, whatever I could do. And I ended up getting traded to Kelowna. Had a great year in Kelowna, playing with Jamie Benn on a line with Jamie Benn, and Tyson Berry was there as a 16-year-old, Luke Shen, Tyler Myers. We had a good young team. They were 1 year away from the Memorial Cup run, but was able to sign with the Tampa Bay Lightning's organization still after all that crap had happened. And after my final year of junior, with all the stuff that was going on with the 2 pregnancies and everything else, and family issues and different things dating back to when I was kicked out of my house as an 18-year-old, like I was lost and I really started hanging out with the wrong crowd. It went from being like my friends that I grew up with that we would do it recreationally and I would kind of take it over the line. But now I was like seeking out the more advanced partiers, you would say, or people that are more motivated just by drugs and stuff. And so I got involved with the wrong crowd, and instead of training to go to Tampa Bay's camp, there I was using drugs every single day and just a lost cause. Ended up going to Tampa's camp and got sent down to the American League, and in my 4th game I blew out my knee and blew my MCL out, and I was in terrible shape. I mean, I didn't train at all that summer, but I blew my knee out and the doctors put me on OxyContin, and that's it's essentially it's prescription heroin is what it is. And I knew what it was. Like, I knew people that did it back home, the people that I'd now become friends with and associated with, they were all doing it, but it was never for me. And now I realize though that yes, okay, I needed to take them for my knee pain, but wow, does this stuff ever make me feel good emotionally? Because it's an emotional painkiller too. It's not just a physical painkiller. And so, man, I'll never forget the first time I ever took one of those. And I think a couple days after I took that first pill, I was crushing them up and snorting them, and that was it became my life. You become physically dependent on them, and it escalated very, very quickly. Doctor hopping and lying. Oh, my pills got stolen, this and that. Oh, I left them in my car.
Doctor
hopping, going from one doctor to the next, saying, hey, I need these pills, this is my prescription. Now they've put in this system where you can't really do that, because they have the computer systems and they can see when you've filled your last prescription and different things. But back then they didn't really have that system in place, so you could technically go to one doctor and they wouldn't have the record of you could just say, oh, I'd bring in my pill bottle and be like, hey, like, look, I'm out of pills. And they'd be like, okay. And especially with the team doctors, I mean, I had one team doctor on speed dial. Didn't matter. Like, I remember one time, I filled the prescription of like 220 40 milligram Oxycontins in one prescription. I filled it 4 times in 8 days, and one is supposed to last you for the whole month. And finally, on the 4th one, the team doctor was like, on the 3rd one, the team doctor got kind of red flagged. I remember trying to fill it, and the pharmacist, I was standing right there at the pharmacy, and the pharmacist is like, you've already filled this 3 times this week, because I wasn't that smart. I kept going back to the same pharmacy. They're like, we can't fill this for you. Like, I'm like, well, call the doctor then, because the doctor can override that and say, fill it. And sure enough, the doctor was like, yeah, fill it. And then so when I did it again from another doctor, I went to my family doctor on that 4th time and tried to get him to do the same thing. And the pharmacist was like, do you realize that he's filled this 3 times with this doctor and da 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 da? And the pharmacist, I never forget, the pharmacist handed me the phone and was like, here. And the doctor's like, Brady, there's no way I can fill that prescription for you. Come see me tomorrow. We need to discuss this. And I remember being so like in withdrawal and feeling sick. And that is when I lost my prescription to Oxycontin. Was the next day. I still went to the appointment. My dad actually came with me, because my doctor called my dad and explained everything. My dad had no idea to what extent I was doing these. He didn't even know I had a prescription for them. And then from there, I really started to go to the street level to try to find them. And within 4 months, Sean, I switched from Oxycontin to heroin. And once you start to do that, and essentially it's the same drug. I mean, one you're getting from the doctors, and the other you're getting from a dealer. They're essentially the same thing. But what that did, and now I'm no longer playing hockey. I mean, my hockey career is toast, kaput. I don't even care about hockey. I'm so focused on this medication and just so overcome by this power of addiction that I didn't care about hockey at all. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't, because it just consumed my life. And yeah, it was pretty bad. So when you get to the heroin, then you really start to hang out with marginalized people, and you get introduced to a whole nother life that I never even knew existed. It's like things you see in the movies, and it's like, yeah, that stuff doesn't really happen. Oh yeah, it happens. And I started to do it too. And so,
like what? What are you talking about? Like, you were, man, like, I'm just trying to hold on here. How do you go? This is something I'm really thankful. Either my genetic makeup,
yeah,
parents, teammates, coaches, friends, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to rewind this for a sec. And you said, you talked about your mental health break. That's what they call it now, where you went home because for 2 weeks, you just need to get home.
yeah.
I know a ton of hockey players that I either played with or myself included, who just got extremely homesick when you're that far away from home and you're a young kid. And I was 18 at the time. You would have been what, 17 at the time? So that's the first time you're out from underneath the parents' wings, so to speak. And it's, for you, it's it's in Saskatchewan. That's a world away. For me, it was Ontario. That's a world away. And it's just like, it's a lot. It's a lot for a young kid. And I mean,
Absolutely.
imagine being like a 15-year-old or a 14-year-old and doing that, which some do.
Yeah.
So like that part, like I completely get, like having to go home. And I saw it in college with guys that just couldn't handle being that far away from home. You hear about it all the time. Actually, you go back through like the decades. There's been good hockey players that are well older than us. They just couldn't handle it. Like that's a fair like I get that. You talk about getting, at 5 years old, man, that breaks my heart. Like that's hard.
Yeah.
But how does it go from like, I don't know, like was it just something like, were you drinking hard too? Because I didn't hear, like, maybe you did say boozing like a ton and it just kind of spilled over into, a little bit of weed and then cocaine and it just kept going down chasing a bigger high? Or was it like,
I mean, yeah, I guess that's kind of fair to say. I mean, yes. I mean, if you dial it back to, I took my first drink at 11 years old, smoked my first joint at 12 years old. But again, like I never, throughout high school, like I was never into that stuff. Like I had this, I don't do drugs attitude because I'm a hockey player and we don't do that stuff, right? And so there was on the weekends, yeah, we drank, and when we drank, I was always the one that was drinking more than everybody else and and staying up and looking for people to drink with because everyone else was passed out or sleeping or whatever. So I think there were red flags back then, and it goes back to just the trauma I think that I faced as a kid and just what that did to me. But yeah, I mean, it was a progression, but it was a fast progression. And so, the very first time, like I had these rules for myself, like I think a lot of us do, especially as hockey players. Like there's just things we do and there's things that we don't. And doing cocaine and that kind of stuff, that was never an option for me. But then one night, I'm with a certain group of people and they're doing it and it looks, oh, it's not that big of a deal. They're doing it, so I do it, and then you break down that barrier, and then all of a sudden you do it again and again and again. Then you start to, like, it becomes part of your routine. And drinking, yeah, I was an alcoholic for sure. When I was in Swift Current, I was drinking a lot, and smoking a lot of weed. But the cocaine really started after my 20-year-old season. That was just the situation that where I was living, with this, my girlfriend's family, her brothers, everybody was doing it, and it was so readily available. It's a crazy long story, but I talked about it briefly here and there. But like it's so readily available, and I literally had someone bringing it to me every day, even if I didn't ask for it. They were like, here, because he was a drug dealer in the family, and was like, I asked for it one day, Sean. And then every day he would just keep bringing it and bringing it and bringing it and bringing it. It didn't even need money. Like he just kept bringing it, and I couldn't say no, or I just didn't. I just did it. I'm like, oh, it's here. I couldn't not do it. And then the next day it would happen again. I'd be thinking, I'd miss training, and I would, I wouldn't. Oh, it was horrible. I'd be up all night trying to like hide it from my girlfriend at the time and doing it by myself. And it was just such a, oh my God, it gives me anxiety thinking about it. But that was sort of the beginning. But it was when when I really got hurt there with my knee and that, and started to use the oxys. Like people that don't know, when you do an opiate, whether it be morphine or Oxycontin or heroin or fentanyl or whatever, it doesn't take much for your body to become physically dependent on it, right? So you take that pill for 4 or 5 days, and on the 6th day, your body's going, hey, I need that. Like you're throwing up, you're crapping your pants, you're sweaty, you're in pain. It's like a flu times a million. And so it doesn't take much. So if there's anybody listening to this, younger kids, you really got to think before you do these things, and understand the consequences that can happen. And I think you mentioned it earlier about genetics and stuff. And so, on my dad's side of the family, there's no history of addiction, but my mom's side, there is. Like my grandpa died of alcohol withdrawal, and several members of my mom's family are alcoholics. I took it to the whole nother level with drugs, but that addiction part is still there. And so I'll fast forward the story a little bit. Is I did end up going to rehab when I was 24. So I stopped playing in 2009, just a year and a half after junior because of all this, and took a year and a half off. And now 24 years old, I went to treatment for the very first time, which was the first of many. I thought it was going to be the first time or only time, but unfortunately I had to go many times after that. I ended up going and I stayed longer, and I went back. I played in the Central Hockey League down in Rio Grande. I literally walked right out of treatment, man. My dad picked me up at the doors of treatment, and I walked out the door, got on a plane, went and played, and did really well there. I stayed clean for like 7 months and was doing all right. And as soon as I flew back to Vancouver, instantaneously relapsed. And from there, things really progressed quick, where it went from, the way I was using it before to the worst way, using, intravenously needles. And a year after that, I found myself homeless on the streets of Vancouver, Hastings Street. Anybody listening to this, if you don't know what Hastings Street in Vancouver is, check it out on Google. It's a place in Canada that if you don't know it exists, you won't even believe that a place like that exists. It's absolute carnage in Vancouver, open drug dealing and crime, and it's where you go to die. Like, I grew up in and around kind of that area, and we used to, my dad would take me down there and be like, if you don't go to school, this is where you end up. It's literally thousands of people that are in addiction and homeless and tents and everything. It's just crazy. There's nothing that the government can do about it because there's just too many of them. And that's where I ended up. I was down there for 10 months. And by this time, Sean,
You were on Hastings Street for 10 months.
10 months homeless. Yeah. True story, man. Yeah, literally my dad tells a story. He's been on my podcast a couple of times where he's looking for me down there, literally rolling like overdosed bodies over, hoping that the next one isn't me, and luckily I was rescued by the RCMP because my lifestyle now, to obtain what I needed, my body was telling me I needed in the way of drugs. I started to commit crimes that I would have never in a million years would have thought that I would do, but that's just what happens. And people are like, how can that happen? How can you do that? Get a job, just stop. All those same judgments I passed on people growing up and doing that, it can happen to anybody. It really can, if you allow it to, and if sort of like a perfect storm in my life. But I got arrested. I ended up going to jail for 2 years, and I was supposed to go for 4. They ended up getting 2, and I got out. And I mean, in between all that, Sean, I overdosed so many times I can't even count, where I shouldn't be here. I also tried to commit suicide several times. I spent a year in the psych ward, like 6 months, 3 months, 3 months on and off, waking up in the hospital, heart rate monitors, and my parents around me going like, what the hell, like pissed off that I wasn't successful, and locked in the psych ward so many times too, and detox centers, treatment centers. But by the time I got to jail, I got out after 2 years, and I overdosed again on my mom's lawn at like 5:30 in the morning. And if there wasn't a police car just sitting there doing something on her computer, it was a girl actually, and my mom's landlord didn't leave early for work that morning, I'd be dead. There's no question that I'm not sitting here anymore, because I was using fentanyl. Now there's no heroin, it was all fentanyl from 2013 until till now. Still, like, that's all that's out there. And so my parents did an intervention on me there and they're not together, right? Like they literally did an intervention with my aunts and stuff. They came and they're like, something's got to give. And so I moved out to Ontario. There was a girl that I was seeing had moved out here while I was incarcerated. And so I came out to Aurelia, Ontario, and unfortunately my addiction followed me out here, and things only got worse. Believe it or not, I ended up back in jail again out here for a year. And I got out in November of 2019. So got out, and once again I got back into my addiction, but something was a little different this time. Like, I don't know, I was living up in Muskoka now, and I lived on this lake, and it was beautiful. I was in the middle of nowhere. It made things really difficult to maintain addiction because I didn't drive or didn't anything, but I was still in that mindset, because you have to remember it was like 9-10 years of just this chaos. And luckily, the Swift Current Broncos, just a wonderful organization, sent me a pair of skates, my custom skates with the extended white tongues and everything, and we're like, get back on the ice. And my girlfriend now, I was staying with her parents, and they live on a lake, and so I got clean. It was like 2.5, 3 weeks clean, and I put my skates on and I skated down their driveway. Like seriously, right out of Mystery, Alaska. I skated down the driveway right onto the lake because that's what it was. And skated around for like 15 minutes, and I just knew that I had to get back into hockey some way, somehow. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. And then I kind of got this idea to start this podcast, and you mentioned listening to the very first one, which was called Hockey to Heroine, The Road to Recovery. It's now called Hockey to Hell and Back. But with no computer, no equipment, no nothing. I had to borrow a computer, no idea, no script, no nothing. I had no plan. I just looked at my girlfriend and said, I'm going to start a podcast. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about, but I'm going in your mom's car and I'm doing this podcast. And it was out of her mom's car, the very first episode. And from there, I just kind of started to share my story, in little bits and pieces, and started to acquire these guests. And what really helped me was on episode 7, Doug McLean, formerly of Hockey Night in Canada and Sportsnet, came on. He's become a great confidant in the last year. He's always wearing his puck support stuff, which we'll get to, I'm sure, here in a little bit. If you're not familiar with that, I'm not sure if you are, but anyways. And so I started to share my story. All these guests, I got Theo Fleury on, Sheldon Kennedy, Brent Sopel's become a great friend. Darren McCarty calls me his little brother now. He's become one of my best friends, who was one of my idols. That's why I wore number 25 in Kelowna. So it's really cool. I started to make all these relationships, but at the same time, I started to get a lot of people reaching out to me saying they were struggling. So I kind of felt this overwhelming sense of accountability to keep going. Like, they're here, I put it all out there, and now I can't go back, because if I go back now, like, this is it. Like, I've had so many chances through hockey, through everything. Like, this is my one and only chance. If I go back, I will surely die, and there will be no coming back. Like, there's the amount I overdosed over 10 times, Sean. There's just no coming back from it.
What better motivator than if
Yeah.
you go back, you don't come back?
Yeah. And it took me a while though to really understand that, because even when I was in addiction, and I've lost so many friends, and I'm going to get to that in a second, but either in the hockey community or not, but being on Hastings, being on area, like, I saw so many people die. And when you're in that life, like, you're not thinking like, oh, that's scary, I don't want to die. Like, you're thinking, where did he get that stuff from? Where did she get that stuff from? I want that strong stuff because I want to be like that, but I won't die. That's the mentality of a drug addict. So I never really stopped to realize just how dangerous it was. And it took a long time for that fog to lift, for me to really realize that, hey, man, it was playing Russian roulette every single day.
Well, you got to. What? So you're saying on Hastings Street, people are just dying?
Oh, yeah.
And instead of you being like, holy shit, you're going, man, I want what that guy got, because that looks like some good shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not the only one. That's literally like, I can't tell you how many times I've administered Narcan in my life to people who are overdosing just on Hastings alone over the 10 months. It is such a common thing, but it's like, I've seen people like, Narcan that, true story, more than once, Narcan that guy, I want to know where he got that stuff. It's like, really? Like, but in the meanwhile, I was thinking the same thing, but I was more worried about helping the guy. My dad's a retired firefighter. So, like, and it's crazy because there's a guy that played in the WHL, a guy that I grew up one town over from. We're the same age. His name is Jason Lynch. He played in the WHL my whole time in the WHL. Really tough guy. He's a Vancouver firefighter, and this guy had to Narcan me and bring me back to life. Like, when I was down there, it was crazy. When I went to jail in BC, there was a guy that I fought in the WHL, was a jail guard, Luke Betts, and his brother Caleb, who was drafted to the NHL, who I played with in the East Coast League. They were both jail guards. Never mind 2 other guys that played hockey that I never played against, but played with in beer league and stuff. So super awkward, super embarrassing. But yeah, like, so I'll fast forward a little bit back to where I
I got to put a pin in fast forwarding for a sec, because I've been waiting to ask, what the hell is Narcan?
Narcan. Okay. I love, this is a good thing. So, it's a reversal agent for opioids. So if you're overdosing on fentanyl or heroin, it's what they give you to administer to bring you back. If you administer it quickly enough, you'll stop the overdose, and it's fairly successful. Without it, we hear about the overdose deaths. Without that, we'd be so many people, more people would be dead without it. It's a lifesaver, and it's a common occurrence. You administer it it used to be by an injection in a muscle, and everyone's running around with these little kids with Narcan, or someone's going down, get the Narcan, get the Narcan. It's called naloxone too. You may have heard naloxone, but this is a world that a lot of people in hockey will never, ever hopefully have to see. And I did, and I lived it. And I'm here to tell the story of my hockey career, but also how mental health and addiction can really take you to some dark places. And I've lost so many friends. And so I'll get back to the podcast. So last year, just over a year ago now, Sportsnet did a story on me and a little bit about my story. And in that interview, I shared a story about how when I was with the Tampa Bay Lightning, it was right after Stamkos got drafted. So he was there, and we played an exhibition game. And the night before, it was in the middle of summer, right? It was a prospects exhibition game. And so I told you I hadn't trained. I was using cocaine all this time and whatever. And so there was a guy there that was drafted by Tampa that played in the WHL with me, and we became friends. We actually became roommates in the AHL. His name is Mitch Fadden. And I shared the story in the Sportsnet article about how the night before Steve Stamkos first ever time he ever put a Tampa Bay Lightning jersey on, he played with two guys that were partying all night on cocaine the night before, me and Mitch Fadden. I left Mitch's name out of the story because I didn't want to air out his dirty laundry. So this guy was a WHL All-Star. Mitch Fadden, great hockey player, great guy. He became a friend. But we partied that night. Barry Melrose comes into the dressing room the next day. Starting on forward, we got Steve Stamkos, Brady Leavold, and Mitch Fadden. And me and Mitch are like, really? Like, this is crazy. And so I left his name out. After the story came out, I started to look for him. I was like, Mitch, you're never going to believe, man, I want to get you on my podcast. Let's tell all these stories, because there's so many other ones that we had too. And I looked for him for like 3 weeks. And then finally I got a phone call, and they're like, you should probably sit down. Like, Mitch Fadden passed away from a fentanyl overdose in 2017. And I was like, what? I literally collapsed to the ground, and I was like, there's no way. And I realized then, and then I heard of several other hockey players that have died from fentanyl overdose, like several. I started to hear about a lot of other hockey players that commit suicide. I found out my coach from my first year pro, Quentin Van Horlick, one of the greatest guys I ever met, intentional overdose, suicide by fentanyl, killed himself. And I started to uncover all these stories in the hockey community, and I was like, you know what, like, I have to do something about this. Like, I have to do something about this. And I started to uncover so many stories, Sean, from minor hockey, junior. Of course, we know about Ripon and Belak and Bugard and Todd Ewan. Even Bob Probert lived a tough life. I'm so grateful. I've become so close with the Probert family too, man. It's been amazing. They've become, all of them, the kids. Danny was on my podcast as well. She's become just such a close friend. Actually, she promised me that I get to ride Bob Probert's Harley in the Bob Probert Memorial Ride if I get my motorcycle license. So it's pretty cool. But I started to uncover all these stories, and I was like, man, I gotta do something. And so I had this idea of starting a nonprofit to support mental health and addiction in hockey, because I realized that though in some cases my story may be extreme, the issues are there. Through all the guys that I've talked to, that I played with and against, so many of them have struggled with addiction on some level and mental illness and trying to find their way after hockey. And so over the last year, of course, I've done my podcast, but my biggest focus is puck support. You can see one of the sweaters up beside me. And so, it's a developing kind of nonprofit. It's taken a little longer to get going than what I've hoped, but you have to remember that I got out of jail not that long ago, not even 2 years ago, and I had nothing. And I've started all of this from absolutely nothing, no money, just me, myself, and I, and I'm so grateful that everyone's hopped on and supported. So like now we have a clothing line and stuff. And Sean, I don't know if you know this, and I know my camera's backwards and maybe you can flip it, but so what we do is we put one of their names in every single one. So that's Steve Montador, 1979 to 2015. I'll be in the hat, in my hoodie. Who I got? Mitch Fadden's actually in my hoodie. So in all of our clothing, we will, let me see if I can get this picture down for you. I'll send it to you after, but there's a picture on our website, but these, and there's more now, but every single person in that picture right there has either died from addiction or suicide. And since I printed this one off, I've added probably 5 or 6 people, and there's girls in there as well. Sarah Devins, Laura Taylor, Chad Miller died of a heroin overdose while playing junior hockey down in Illinois, believe it or not. Terry Trafford's in there, of course. These 2 brothers here, 16 and 18 years old, Jack and Nick Savage, both passed away from overdose in the same night at a party. 2 brothers down in the States. Yeah. These stories exist, man. Mark Potvin committed suicide. Merrick Svatos from the Colorado Avalanche overdosed and died. I mean, these stories are there, and people continue to struggle. And so, I didn't really have any experience with any of this podcasting or starting this charity type deal, but things are progressing quite nicely with it. And after a lot of hard work and a lot of time spent and a lot of drive, for once in my life, Sean, I work hard, man. Like I work my bag off, for these guys and girls and all those who continue to struggle. And so, that's just a small part of it. And the clothing was really just because I couldn't pay for advertising and didn't know what to do. And so I wanted to get the message out there. But there's many other logos. Like there's one that says puck addiction and mental health over hockey, and it's okay to be not okay. Like
where do people go to find it?
Pucksupport.com, pucksupport.com. Follow us on social media at pucksupport. And I don't take $1 out of it. And we've done in 3 months, Sean, we've done fairly well with sales. And for that, we're grateful. But every single dollar goes back into just continuing to grow this. And we put some money aside for a mental health and addiction fund. Just recently, I tried to help a teammate who I played junior B with. I found out he was homeless and addicted to fentanyl. He played in the BC Hockey League for the Vernon Vipers. I actually flew him out to Ontario, and it didn't go as well as I'd hoped, but at least we tried. We were able to do that, and I hope that one day he can find his way as well. But yeah, it's all just kind of starting. And so I decided recently, like I told you earlier, that I'm going to rollerblade across Canada. May 30th of 2022 is the start date, and we're going to start in Newfoundland, and we're going to end in my hometown of Port Coquitlam. Somewhere around August 7th is the projected end date, give or take a few days. But True Hockey is sponsoring me and the journey, Marsblade and some others as well that we're sort of having meetings with. But like I said, it's all very new, and like at the end of the day, this rollerblade is not about me. I've been able to connect with a lot of these families, that have lost loved ones, whether it be from the NHL or guys and girls that are younger. And that to me is what gets me out of bed every single day. Today I got a package in the mail from Doug and Dana Donaldson, who are the parents of Ryan Donaldson. Played for the Kelowna Rockets for a short period of time. He committed suicide in 2014 when he was 18 years old. And they used to do a memorial tournament for him every year for 5 years. They sent me the jerseys they had made up and a hat, and actually I have the bracelet on right now that says "Always in Our Hearts, RD." So I got that sent to me today, and like I said, like the Probert family sent me a bunch of stuff from his memorial stuff. It's just.
It's pretty cool.
It's wild,
it's pretty
man.
cool that on this side, coming from this side, people always ask, how can I start a podcast? How hard is it? Blah blah blah. And I just they're gonna listen to this and they're gonna go, the dude started a podcast up in his girlfriend's mom's car. Like, that's how easy it is. And look at how much, how good you've done for your life. Like, honestly, like you've given yourself a purpose again. And it's, I don't know, it looks evident to me, but I don't know. Like, the I don't think I know I've never suffered from addiction. But the tough thing as a guy looking inwards on it is like that just doesn't disappear, right? Like that's probably always there for you. And you can go a year and have nothing. I had Clint Malarchuk on here, and I couldn't get over his story of like just when he goes like how many years of no problems, and then it comes back, and like when he goes off the rails, he goes off the rails.
Yeah.
And so I admire what you're doing, and I think you just got to stick with it because like obviously there's a huge community there looking for somebody to champion it.
Yeah, and you mentioned Clint. Clint has become a friend too. Is on my show, but recently he lost a friend in Mark Pavlich, and and so I've been able to connect. Marcus, that's one of the ones that's in this picture now. That's not in the picture. That's one of the more recent ones, and been able to connect with his sister and stuff. And I mean, it's hard, man. To me, like I don't ever think about going back. So I just celebrated 15 months being clean.
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
Thanks, man. Thanks. On May the 8th was 15 months, and I never thought I'd get there, Sean. There's no way I ever would have believed that I would be able to get through where I was, through like no joke, like my arms, like I don't know if you can see it, but like that's a scar from all up my arm from, all this from drug addiction, like I was down and out, man. There's no two ways about it, but I'm here to say that like it doesn't matter how far down you go, there is a way to get out of it. It's certainly not easy, and I will say that I've been very lucky through the amount of support and stuff that I've gotten. It's I wake up every day and question whether or not I deserve it, but I know that at the end of the day, I for once in my life, I literally know that I'm trying my best, that I'm doing my best, and I'm not doing it for myself. I'm not. Every step of the way when I'm training for this rollerblade, every day when I'm doing stuff for Puck Sport, I look at this picture, I look at these pictures, and every podcast now for the last 15, I do it in memory of one of them, and that's why I do it. I do it for them in their memory, because I question like too, like if I would have died in my addiction, like I would have been remembered as the drug addict, and maybe I will always be remembered as a drug addict in a way, but that's how I would have left.
Man, you're writing a new chapter of your story. Don't you get that? Like
exactly,
your book reads pretty like. Listen, your book in the beginning sounds like, oh, this is a guy on the rise, Tampa Bay Lightning, Holy Dinah. He's done a couple things, oopsie, but he's on his way to like dropping off a cliff. To like, for sure, the people that are listening in the States, my buddies in the States that don't know what Hastings are, or Hastings Street, sorry, you really need to pause this and go take a look, because like if you don't know what that is, I'm sure there's streets in North America that are similar, but Hastings has a reputation, and the fact you lived there for that long, and like, man,
10 months, man.
And then to go through prison and everything else, like, did I read, I think it was in the Sportsnet article, that you get picked up by the SNP for stealing a taxi, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was just one of many things that I did. But yeah, and so I don't really talk that. It's crazy because that story there was not so much related to addiction as it was to anger. I actually found out that my line mate from my time in Swift Current, I mean, not the whole time, but my best friend and a guy I played with majority of my 19-year-old season, we were best friends. He actually hooked up with my baby moms behind my back, and I went off the chain. I lost my mind, and I didn't have a car at the time, and I was going to go pay him a little visit. And I had never committed a crime in my life up to that point. And as soon as I did it, I was like, what the hell? And I stopped. I ditched the cab like 2 minutes down the road and ran away. Like, you know what I mean? But I still, I didn't get caught for that until 2.5 years later, almost 3 years later. I eventually pled guilty to it. I pled guilty to everything that I got caught for. I never took any of my charges to trial and be like, I'm not guilty. And like, if they got, like, I felt like I had to, like, it was like, you got me, I did this stuff, I'll own it. I'll pay the price. I deserve these consequences, and then we'll move on. I just never anticipated being able to move on in the fashion that I have. And again, I'm not sure how or why people have been so receptive, to the point where now I have little kids looking up to me, even after everything that I've gone through. I have relationship with families and kids that they trust me with their kids, and and that's because deep down, I'm a good person. I really am a good person that was just troubled and misguided and hurt, and I'm now dealing with my traumas and my addiction and everything. There's things that I do every single day to stay on top of it, but it surprises me how quickly people have kind of given me just a chance. And it's a huge reason why I don't even have a second in the day to think about even going back. My phone, I get at least, it's crazy the amount of people that I get reaching out, looking for support that I can't give professionally, but I have experience and I can give them friendship and emotional support and kind of suggest things. But I mean, I have plans of, going to school to become more educated on the actual, how to actually give that support and give that help, and combining it with my life experience. But it's sometimes overwhelming, man. But I take great pride, and it's a great responsibility that I'm just really grateful for, man.
Overwhelming in the sense that people are reaching out to you?
Yeah, like, just sometimes it's like, there's just, I feel like I can't do enough. There's sometimes like I can't get back to people immediately, or I won't even see that they've messaged, because there's so many, and it just makes me want to work even harder, because I know how many people are struggling, especially now with COVID and everything. Like, now we're seeing, at least I am, a lot of people that maybe never had any challenges with mental illness or addiction, and they're now kind of seeing what that's like. And I've lost several friends in this past year to overdose, that were clean for a long time, that went back to their addiction because their gym was closed. They had no meetings to go to. They had no that support. And so they went back to their addiction, and they were clean for a year, 2 years, one guy 4 years. And now, he picked up drugs once, and now he's not here anymore. I just found out another friend of mine died. I just found out last night. So I get these phone calls, and I deal with a lot of hard hitting topics. So sometimes, yeah, but you mentioned too, though, it's overwhelming, because sometimes I feel like I'm just not worthy of them reaching out. Like, why are you reaching out to me? Like, I'm just a fall down, or this is my negative self-talk coming back to me, always telling me I was never good enough to play hockey too, right? So
yeah, but if you look at, I mean, when I listen to your story, I don't know. I was a junior A hockey player, so already you're playing in a league above me, right? The fact you made it as doing everything you did and still make it to being to a Tampa Bay Lightning camp says you were doing a lot of things right. You were getting messed up in the wrong crowd. That's all, right? Like, I see, like, you hear those different stories all the time, and now I just look at it and I go, you found a way to come out of the darkest of the dark and pull yourself to where, man, like, I didn't realize, I take starting a podcast for almost granted, right? Like, anyone can do it. I truly believe that anyone can start one. But I found out from talking with different people that they're very uncomfortable with people hearing their thoughts, right? Like, actually talking. And I'm like, oh, I guess, it's not that I don't care. It's that I'm not trying to be somebody else on this mic that I'm not on.
That's
like,
right.
if you're sitting across the table, you're going to get the same Sean Newman. And I feel that's what I feel sitting here with you, Brady, is you're probably not this different guy. You're trying to do things right. But in saying that, you got a past that, well, not too many people have, and come out and are sitting there trying to do something like this and support the community and support people that are, probably overlooked an awful lot, if not every single day.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say earlier is like, if I would have died in my addiction, it's like, how would people have remembered me? Not that it's super important, but I would have never had that chance. So there's individuals in this picture. I know I'm not going to name them or anything, but I know there's a couple for sure from their families that they were doing the same things that I was doing. Ended up in jail. Same stuff I was doing, that they lost it all. One guy in the OHL, and that's how he was remembered, and nobody was talking about him anymore until I started to bring the name up. And luckily, he was actually the first one that I found out about. I'll use his name because his family doesn't mind. Matthew Lazinski, his best friend, actually reached out to me after my first or second podcast ever and was like, "Is this Brady, like the guy with the podcast?" He's like, "I feel like I was just listening to my best friend. My best friend died of a fentanyl overdose in 2017, and since then, him and I become like best friends." His name is Matt Thompson, and so I've been able to connect with the family and stuff. But like, if he didn't reach out to me, tell me that story, and I didn't hear about Mitch, then I probably never start Puck Sport, and like, a lot of them maybe wouldn't be talked about. And what I've found from a lot of these families is that I was nervous because it's like, maybe they don't want us talking about them, but it's like an overwhelming sense of like, we don't want them to be forgotten.
Yeah.
And so that is a huge mission every single day, is to keep that conversation alive, keep their memory alive, keep giving people hope. And at the end of the day, if all of this is said and done, and I can help one person, just one person, all the misery I've gone through, all the time I've wasted with, a lot away from my kids because I was in jail, and all the time homeless and addicted and all of that, even going back to being sexually abused, if it's all for helping just one person, to me, it's worth it. And there's a reason why things happen the way they did. And it just took me a lot longer to realize why. And again, everything that I went through was just one more life lesson that I can kind of use as I almost say, like someone told me, the slogan is a good one, you turn your mess into your message. And it's kind of stuck with me. And so that's sort of what I'm trying to do. And it seems the more that I talk about what I'm going through, the more others, at least when they're talking to me or people that come on my podcast, will share things that they've never shared before. And it's like, wow, and I am just like Luke Hunter, the captain of the Swift Current Broncos, when I was there, country singer Hunter Brothers, he was the captain of the Swift Current Broncos, came on my podcast, and he shared there that, he was sexually abused as a young age. And here's a guy that he never even swore. He would come into our dressing room and be like, "Frick me, boys, we're playing like crap." And like, I'd be laughing and stuff, because that was Luke, though. He's just a genuinely the nicest guy I've ever met in my life. You would never expect anything like that. He never drank, he never did anything. And there he was, and he shared that with everybody. And it was just like, wow. And, so you realize that there's so many more people out there that have gone through similar things, if not, the same as I've gone through, or maybe, somebody else out there that's listening to this has gone through something. There's unfortunately, but kind of fortunately for the individual, there's way more people that can level with you than what you originally think. At least I did. I thought I was alone. No one's ever going to understand me. No one, cares. No one will give me a chance. I'm just done. I give up. And I just want to remind people that, just don't give up on yourself, because there is always hope. It takes work. It might hurt. It might continue to hurt for a little while. And who knows? I still have bad days, Sean, but never bad enough to go back to addiction. Like, there's just no way. I have different ways to cope with it now.
I think two things come to mind. One is the power of, like, podcasts in particular have let everyone know, if they just want to like listen to different things, that they're not alone. Because there's a lot of, COVID-19, man. I can't speak for you guys out there, but I know some of the things going on around here. And I mean, geez, Ontario has been in lockdown for a long time. Sometimes you just don't realize there's other people out there going through the exact same thing you're going through. And by not getting together and socializing and doing the things, you talked about AA meetings, out here, I mean, they just arrested another minister at a church, right? Like they won't let church Congress, like you just go down the list, and it's for another time to get in, whether that's politically right or not. It's just to understand there's other people going through what you're going through, and you're not alone, is like a really, really powerful thing for other people to hear. And podcasts are a perfect way, are a really, really perfect way for that to come across.
Yeah, no, initially, like, honestly, like, my podcast saved my life. It did. If I don't start that podcast, there's no way I'm sitting here clean. I don't know what else would have brought all this into my life. Even tonight's conversation with you, getting to meet you, it doesn't happen if I don't start my podcast initially. And so that doesn't mean everyone can go out and start a podcast. If you want to, I encourage you to. Anybody can do it, but it's initially taking that step, taking a risk.
But for you, it's podcast. For somebody else, it's,
yes,
like it could be a bazillion things. It could be picking up an instrument, could be start writing again, could be, go out and play, I don't know, and pick up volleyball league or something, right? Like I'm just throwing darts here, but like, it doesn't have to be talking. Like there's lots of people that don't love talking to people all the time, but I can mirror that. Like the podcast has opened up doors that you didn't even realize were there until you start talking to people. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a door. I could just open I could just walk through it. Oh, look at the opportunities that come with it.
Yeah, it's
well, look,
crazy, man.
You started a podcast. Now you got a charity. And then on top of that, your bike and your rollerblading across Canada. So when does that happen again?
We're leaving May 30th, starting in Mount Pearl, Newfoundland, or St. John's, Newfoundland. It's whatever the furthest tip of Newfoundland, and we'll do Newfoundland and hopefully finish beginning of August sometime out there in BC, Port Coquitlam. So it's going to be a haul, man. And like I said to you earlier, I hope that I can see you somewhere along my way. Where are you, in Lloydminster?
I'm in Lloydminster, yeah.
Where? So that's up near where?
Well, it's in between Saskatoon and Edmonton, like right smack in the middle. So you'll be to the south of us. You go on Highway 1. I promise next year I will drive down and I'll slap on the rollerblades and roll with you for a day. I got no issues with that whatsoever. I think it's sweet.
That would be awesome. I'd love that. And that's a huge thing too, is what I realized is, if anyone listening, hockey guys or whatever, like, get some rollerblades. You want to talk about some good for your mental health right now? Like, it is my new favorite thing. I feel like a kid again, man. I'm out there by myself playing like a kid with this mustache, ripping around Gravenhurst, everyone.
Great mustache, by the way. Great fucking mustache.
Do you want to know why I have this mustache?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
Longer. So I had it for Movember, and I woke up on December 1st and I was in bed. I was on Instagram or whatever, and I seen this post. It was like, just because it's December 1st doesn't mean that, men's mental health issues go away. And I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, well, I guess I got it for a year. And then I made the mistake of, mentioning it on a live video or on a podcast or something. So now I can't go back on it. So now I'm stuck with it for a year. But originally I had no teeth. And
why haven't you been like that the whole time?
Well, I was stuck like that for a long time. So get this, I actually had some amazing people pay to get my teeth done, believe it or not, because I was walking around with no teeth. And that's how great the hockey community is. And the day that I got my teeth, Doug Gilmore actually drove 45 minutes just to come see me the day that I got my teeth. And he gave me like a jersey and a bunch of stuff. Like, I got to meet Doug Gilmore the same day I got my teeth. I was more excited about meeting Dougie than my teeth, but so that's why I had the mustache. You weren't expecting that, eh?
No. I'm getting my teeth worked on right now. So I've actually had surgery. It's getting fixed. And I I don't know. It's just become part of me, so it doesn't even really
Yeah.
bother me, right? I put
It
out
didn't bother me either.
a poll when I was at the dentist because they're like, "Oh, people got to be excited you're getting your teeth fixed." I'm like, "No, I'm pretty sure people are pissed." And so he's like, "What?" And so I put out a poll, and it was 65% people. 65% of people said, "Don't do it." And I'm like, "Well, I'm getting it done." Like I
Yeah. Well, you have, was it one?
just won, yeah.
Yeah, it looks sick though, but like four, like you can't. I got four missing, man.
You look like
you
Bobby.
can't.
You look like a young Bobby Clark.
Yeah, and it's all fun and games and stuff. Like I used to take them out and put them in people's drinks and stuff. But like it has given me a renewed sense of confidence because for me being in the life of addiction and everything, it's sort of stereotypical to not have teeth, but I lost my teeth in Medicine Hat playing against the Medicine Hat Tigers when I was 17. I got high sticked by my own teammate and right out. I had braces for 6 years. See you later. They were off for 8 months and I lost my four fronts. And so, it's been over half my life now, I guess, that I've had these fake teeth. But yeah, I didn't have teeth in there for like a good 2.5 years, man. So it felt good, and I wouldn't, in the position that I was in, there was no way that I would have been able to pay for them at the time, and I got them, I don't know, maybe 5 months ago. And I'm just so thankful for the people that stepped up and made that happen. I was, I never asked for whatever, just from what I was doing, someone's like, hey, like we need to get you some teeth. I'm like, no, like I'm not accepting that or whatever. And they actually took it upon themselves to set it all up. And crazy story is that the dentist now has become a friend of mine too, and his best friend works for the NHL, and it's sort of like, and is like a very high up in the NHL, and I got to meet him, and it's sort of helped with what I'm doing. And actually all like there's like 11 executives at the NHL because they called me in for a meeting to share my story and all this, and they all ordered hoodies and stuff and hats. And so it was kind of cool. It just the mysterious how things work, man. I feel, this is what I tell people. Like, I feel like Ashton, not that I'm not that important, so I'm not trying to make it look that important, but I feel like Ashton Kutcher is going to come out and be like, you just got punked. You're going back to jail. Like, this can't be real. Like, some of the stuff that's happened for me. Like, that's how it feels. I feel like I'm on the longest episode of Punked ever. Like, yeah, I'm just waiting for someone to come out and be like, haha, we got you. Like, like it just,
And give me my teeth
sense.
back.
Yeah. Oh, there you go, sir. Yeah. Take me back with no teeth. Like, like that's a, yeah. And we'll take those back too. Okay. Like.
Well, man, I've really appreciated this. I'm happy we got to do it. The final segment I always do is a Crude Master Final Five. So it's just 5 quick questions, long or short as you want to go. And then I'll let you get on with your night. Shout out to Heath and Tracy McDonald for supporting the podcast since the very beginning. But if you could sit down, you've been, what guest number are you on? 70 something now?
I've done over 100 now. So I did.
Oh, is it 100 now?
Yeah, I did 67 of Hockey to Heroine, and now I'm on 49 of Hockey to
that's
Hell and
why.
Back.
That's why.
So
my math skills suck.
Me too, man. I can count to 4. That's how many teeth I'm missing, but that's about it.
Well, if there's one guest you could have come on your podcast, and you could have anyone, who would you take?
Like in the world?
In the world.
Ooh. I think I'd want to bring on Pavel Bure, man. Like, he was my guy, like, I don't know how great of a conversation it would be, but there's a guy growing up in Vancouver area that's why I fell in love with the game of hockey, was Pavel Bure. Like, he was just so exciting, and I really looked up to him. So I'd say Pavs for sure on that one.
The Russian Rocket. Yeah, that'd be all right. Yeah. On a side note, does that mean you're a Canucks fan right now?
No, I'm a huge Oilers fan because of Connor McDavid.
Tomorrow night, baby. Fire it up. Or I guess when this gets released tonight, because they'll be coming out, the first game will be tonight.
I can't even, I just love to watch that guy. He's so good. Like, it's ridiculous how good that guy is. It's like me playing Division 8 beer league in my prime. That's what it looks like to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, seriously, it's like, how is he doing that? It looks like the guys don't even try, but they're the best defenseman in the world. And he's just zing, 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 zing. And it's like, okay.
That's fair. If people want to order for puck support, that I don't know why I have this on the question, but I had it on as a question. Remind me again how they do that.
Yeah, so just pucksupport.com. There's a shop right there on the, I think we got like close to 80 different items now, from hoodies and hats and toques and t-shirts and sweatpants and shorts. And I mean, it's all growing, and hopefully sooner rather than later, we're going to be available in stores as well. It's sort of the plan in the next 6 months to a year. And, just want to remind everybody that other than our masks, our COVID-19 masks, other than the masks, every single item will have an in memory of one of these individuals here.
Which is a very nice touch.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so it's pretty cool. And just quickly, I want to add that recently, just about 2 months ago, a fellow by the name of Daniel Miner, who played for the Barrie Colts, passed away from a fentanyl overdose. And his family has now become quite close. I've reached out to them to lend my condolences and just to let them know what I was doing, and if I could, honor him and all of that. And they were, they wanted to be a part of it. So I've become very close with them. And just this past Mother's Day was the first Mother's Day that, his mom, Michelle, was without her son, Daniel. So he's a 1989 birth year. And he had a 2.5-year-old son. And we lost him just a couple months ago. And so on Mother's Day, the entire Miner family, from his brother-in-law, his sister, his nieces, his nephews, his son, his wife, his mom, his dad, they were all in puck support gear with the in memory to Daniel Miner on it. So, and they said to me that, we can't bring him back, but thank you, because this made us feel like he was just with us a little bit more. And so pretty cool, man. So yeah, I just wanted to remind people of that. And we typically don't take requests, because it's sort of like we did for them because of the family. Obviously, we look at it as like, it's like buying a pack of hockey cards. You never know who you're going to get. They're all equally as important, whether it's Bob Probert or Rick Rippon, or they're all, it's just, we honor all of them the same. So just wanted to remind people of that, because that's the most important thing to me. And I put those names on there myself. I have the thing to do it. So that's my job.
I got to ask, I wasn't going to ask this question, but you've said that so many times, and I live under a rock. What is the difference between fentanyl and every other damn thing out there? Could you give it to me in layman's terms? I feel like I'm like,
fentanyl is like 1,000 times more powerful than heroin. And so
oh my God.
Yeah, it was originally made to tranquilize elephants and for like open heart surgery. And so it's a very, very high powered chemical, synthetic made, that hits your receptors like heroin, but it's for surgical use only and medical use only. And they've now mass produced it, and it's hit the streets over the last 8-9 years, and it's killed thousands and thousands of people. So it's very, very sad.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's one of the podcasts you're listening to? What's one of the ones, do you tune into a lot of podcasts?
I listen to Joe Rogan, to be honest. But I listen to a lot of Tony Robbins, really, and Dave Goggins, and anything that they do, just to try to keep it up in light. But I should spend more time listening to podcasts, because I think it's great to learn from people. But I don't know. I don't. I will say, actually, that's not true. I listen to the Rod Peterson show like Monday to Friday. I don't know if you know what that is. But
yeah, absolutely. Rod's been on the show, and
yeah.
He was
just on mine. He was just on my show. He's become a friend too. And like I chime in, and he's always, he's got puck support gear. He's always wearing it on the show and stuff. Actually, Nick Kipper, I watch Kipper's show too. He's been on my show. If you watch Real Kipper at noon, he's got a puck support hat sitting on the shelf next to his mini Stanley Cup. It's pretty cool, man. Like it's, so and they did him and Doug McLean. They both, Doug McLean had it all the swag on one day, and he's got pictures of him on the golf course and posts it and stuff. So I mean, it's very cool. And I was able to put like Todd Ewan and Bob Probert and Doug McLean stuff because he coached both those guys. So he thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, those are the two shows: Real Kipper at noon, really, and the Rod Peterson show. I watch it religiously when I'm sitting right here where I am right now doing stuff for Bucks Aboard. So
Finally, any advice for anyone struggling out there? If anyone's still here at the end of this and they're hanging on every word of you, what advice do you got for them if they're going through something?
reach out and just get honest with somebody and let people know exactly what's going on. Don't hold back, because the only thing that's going to do, from my experience, is it's going to hold you back. You sharing with others, it's not going to really affect their life, whether you tell them the full story or not when you're trying to get help. The only thing that it's going to do is it's going to stop you from getting the help that you need, but also deserve. If you're listening to this, you deserve to get help if you're struggling. You're worth it, and don't give up on yourself. Just be brutally honest. It's scary to let people know how you're feeling or what you've done or what, it's scary. It's hard. And the last thing to go with that is, if it doesn't work the first time, keep trying. Go talk to someone different or go to a different place, whatever. Just be persistent with it, because there is a way to get through it. If I would have gave up, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys now.
Thanks, Brady. I appreciate you you hopping on with me, and best of luck here. I'll be looking forward to seeing you rollerblade by next summer.
Yeah, well, we'll have to get you on. You maybe want to come on my show in June sometime. We'll make it happen, man.
Sure.
It's great. I do my podcast live every Wednesday and Sunday night, and we just kind of go at her and have some fun. Sometimes the topics are hard hitting, and we talk mental health and addiction a lot of the time. But it's nice to just get on and tell some hockey stories, and it'd be cool to talk, your journey through your podcast and stuff too. I think it's a really cool story, man, because you've done very well at it, and I'm proud of you for it. And I have been following you along. I haven't listened to, like I said, I haven't had time to listen to any podcasts, but I keep up on where you're at and who you got on and stuff. So keep at it, man, because it's obviously probably helping you out a lot more than you realize too. Just staying in that kind of mentality as a hockey player, getting that communication with hockey guys, especially in the time of COVID, because it's hard to do that.
Yeah, it's nice to converse with people and hear some stories, get some laughs, get some connection, because COVID's tried pulling that all away from us, and that's probably been the hardest thing, I think, for most people, is just no social interaction. And that's, as human beings, we thrive on that, or at least I certainly do.
Absolutely, I do too, man. So yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to one day meeting you, hopefully early next summer when I'm out there near Lloydminster.
Yeah, we'll race across Lower Saskatchewan on rollerblades. I look forward to it.
Awesome, buddy. Well, thanks for having me on.
You bet. Hey, folks, thanks for joining us today. If you just stumbled on the show, please click subscribe. Then scroll to the bottom and rate and leave a review. I promise it helps. Remember, every Monday and Wednesday, we will have a new guest sitting down to share their story. The Sean Newman Podcast is available for free on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you get your podcast fix. Until next time.